Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicast. In today's episode, we're honored to feature Hans Almaraz, a distinguished law enforcement officer with a career spanning over 3 decades. Hans was raised in San Dimas, California, and after high school, he worked as an EMT. It was during this time while working rescues with LA County Sheriff's Air 5 that he first developed an interest in law enforcement. Hans's journey with the LAPD began in 1990 when he started the academy. Over the years, he worked across LAPD before being selected as a cannon handler in Metro. Throughout his career, Hans has received numerous accolades for his bravery and dedication, including a 2003 Police Star Award for an officer-involved shooting during a canine search with an attempted murder suspect who attempted to murder a CHP officer. In 2013, he was awarded the Medal of Valor for an officer-involved shooting at the end of a pursuit that Hans joined in with patrol units. During this pursuit, the suspect exited his vehicle with an AK-47 and began to fire at Hans, striking his police vehicle 7 times. The suspect was down but refused to let go of the rifle. Hans deployed his canine to distract the suspect. The suspect was later taken into custody with the assistance of SWAT. In 2013, Hans was awarded the National Association of Police Organizations Top Cop Award for that above listed incident. Just a little bit about the Top Cop Award. Each year since 1994, the National Association of Police Organizations has presented the Top Cops Award. The purpose of the Top Cops Award is to educate the American public about our nation's heroes and to pay tribute to law enforcement officers in federal, state, county, tribal, and local agencies from across the country for actions above and beyond the call of duty during the preceding year. Top Cops are nominated by fellow officers. An independent awards selection committee comprised of national law enforcement representatives select from hundreds of nominations one top cop case from each of the 50 states and U.S. territories. In 2018, Hans was awarded the Medal of Valor for a hostage rescue in Long Beach. And then again in 2024, he won another Top Cop Award for an officer-involved shooting in which 3 canine handlers were shot. Hans has been an integral part of over 1,480 canine suspect searches, with more than 1,400 assists and locating 455 suspects with his canine partner. Hans has gained extensive experience working with aviation assets, significantly enhancing their effectiveness of the operations he participated in. Join us as we explore Hans's extraordinary career, his experiences, and the insights he's gained from the years of service. This episode is a testament to the courage and commitment of those who dedicate their lives to public safety. Thank you to our sponsors, Airbus, Anodyne Electronics Manufacturing, and Metro Aviation.
Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Join your host, John Gray, Jeff Ratkovich, and Jack Shanley.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like they're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, threw the shotgun, threw something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
4 on the stop. You're in custody.
Good advising code 4 on the stop.
Just for time, because we were the meat and potatoes of what we're going to get into here in a minute is the relationship with air support, and that's so important to our listeners. And but before I get there, one last thing about Metro Canine. Talk briefly about firearms training and what the importance of it, how often you did it, and why that was a mandatory thing.
Firearms training in Metro, just going to Metro, you get more firearms training than the average division. I don't even think they do much firearms training besides monthly qualification. That's every other month. So you get to Metro. I won't even bring SWAT in the picture because they're constantly shooting, constantly practicing. That's their craft. We get 1 day a month, maybe 2, maybe 1.5 days, where we go up to the range up at Eagle's Nest, and we go through usually weapons qual and then tactical drills. Sometimes we'll incorporate the dogs to get them used to gunfire. Not all the time, because once the dog's used to it, you don't want to overdo it because hearing and stuff. And it's just really 1.5 days a month, qualification and tactic drills. The nice thing about Metro, the stress thing again, you remember Scotty Reitz.
Of course.
He had a way of stressing you out. He tried, right? And if you let it get to you, it could mimic stress. It's not going to mimic the real stress because you can't do that, but it's going to help. Someone yelling in your ear, "Hey, cupcake," Are you shitting me, Cupcake? Come on. And then if you screw up, a safety violation was a case of Guinness. So you're like, man, I'm a young policeman. I can't even drink Guinness. I can't afford it. So all that stress. So Scotty Reach, his training was about as good as you could get when it
was
came
incredible.
to stress training. Yeah. But
You're not going to believe this, Hans, but I actually paid to go to a Scotty Reach class last year.
did you?
I
Good
did.
for you.
And I teach firearms at the academy here in Oregon. And I said, I want to go back and get a different perspective and get retrained by Scotty. And I didn't tell him anything. I just showed up.
That's
and,
great.
And Dave Kurgi was there as an instructor. And Dave knew I was coming, I think. And I was trying to lay low because I knew what would happen. And all of a sudden, Kurgi, I see him pointing at me, and Reach goes, "Oh my gosh." And I was called Cupcake so many times in the next 8 hours. I mean, it was freaking brutal. But it took me back because it was at Eagle's Nest where I had trained so many times with him and K9, and he improved. My shooting was average. And when I left K9, it was way above average. It's because of Scotty and his stress. And it goes away. I know it goes away because I went to air support where we didn't do any shooting except quals.
Right.
And my shooting went away. And then I get into this job, and now I have to improve my skills, which I did with the mentoring of some great instruction here at the Academy in Oregon. But the Scotty thing, when you said Cupcake, I could hear it ringing in my ears. He loved K9. He loved training K9. We did a lot of shooting on the move, as you could attest to, which is appropriate. I mean, it got to the point where I think I shot better on the move than standing still.
Right. Yeah.
Because of Scotty. He demanded it. Brings back good memories.
It was good. Yeah. And it's like you said, it's a perishable skill.
It is.
I try to go once a month, and sometimes not even that with my son. And, my son, I don't know where he got it from, but he's a gun nut. And now, last time I went shooting with him, I'm like, I don't want to shoot with you anymore.
He cleans your clock.
He's really good. And I'm just like, I hate you. But good for him. Hopefully he doesn't need it, but he's good.
So now let's just tell people before we get into this relationship with the helicopter. Almost 26 years as a K9 handler. How many searches as a K9 handler, primary and assist?
Let's see, about 1,450-ish searches, and about a little more than that an assist. An assist is where I'm just a search team member.
Search team member.
We're using another
shotgun
dog.
Man.
Yeah, rear guard shotgun guy. Yeah, that's an assist, but you're still searching just with another handler and his dog.
And in patrol, you did. Do you even know how many in patrol? A ballpark?
I did a good handful. I probably did a good handful with Hollywood and Foothill. I probably did maybe a dozen, which,
that's a lot.
Isn't a whole lot, but it is for being 2 years out in patrol. Yeah. So
how many suspects located by one of your dogs when you're the primary?
I have a cheat sheet. 478. And it doesn't seem a lot when you did 1,458 searches. It doesn't seem a lot, but then you got to understand, and I'm just going to, because I don't want people to say, well, that's not even a third. You're searching with other teams, and many times those other teams find the suspect, and you're just not in the right spot at the right time.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
the suspect's still found, just it's not credited to you.
Exactly.
So I wanted to get that straight out.
Oh, no, that's really important because people look at that stuff and go, oh, the fine percentage. And LAPD K9 has a very high fine percentage.
Always have. Yeah.
And people, I've always been hesitant to share it when I'm teaching classes because people will go, oh, that's a bunch of crap.
Yeah,
because it's so high.
Books. Yeah.
But the fact is, it's true. And you and I both know that it has a lot to do with our patrol officers that set up outstanding perimeters, which gives K9 handlers the opportunity to come in and find them. And it has a lot to do with air support as well.
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about that. What percentage do you think, and I'm not putting you on the spot, to exact, just a ballpark, because I know what I think, but what percentage do you think of the outdoor searches and even indoor searches, but outdoor searches that you did of that 3,000, nearly 3,000, what percentage had a helicopter overhead?
Man, you guys were always up. I would say, and I might be a little high, but I would say 95, 96%. I mean,
That's what I would say.
You guys were always up.
No,
and
I
when
agree.
when you weren't, it was because of either workload or
weather.
Yeah, really.
Weather
that's
was the
it.
big one. Workload, sometimes we'd be bouncing back and forth between a couple perimeters, and so that you don't have a ship over you. But for our listeners, 95%, and I agree with that. That's what I would have guessed you were going to say, and that's what I believed I had as a canine handler and as an aircrew member. I know that was a priority to be over you on searches. We did not want to leave. If we were over canine search, it's going to take a pursuit or a foot pursuit to pull us off.
Right,
We're staying there for the duration because of the safety and of the team. So with that said, that's why I really wanted you to come on here and talk to us. And so from your perspective, all that searching, talk about having an air asset overhead and the advantages of that as from a canine handler perspective.
I mean, it starts before we even kick off the canine search, right? You guys are overhead, like you said, helping them set up the perimeter. You guys are just fabulous with that. Once it's set up, the basic corners, if you need a bit mid-block, I mean, you guys are really helping patrol out. Once we get there, you already have the lay of the land where the guy, and I'm assuming from up there, you can really see, okay, if this guy went here, he went here. Give us a starting point, and then just having you overhead as we're moving forward. Little things like, hey, there's a guy in the backyard that's not your suspect. Oh, hey, get the dog back. Now we can, hey, sir, you got to get inside. Well, or there's dogs in this yard. Something that may seem like nothing, but tell you what, if that unknown freaking pit bull, your dog goes down driving, next thing you know, he's being attacked by a pit. That is huge for us.
Yeah.
Or like I said, just a resident in the backyard. We don't want to. It happens. Accidental bites, they do happen, and we don't like when it happens because it puts us in a bad light and it makes the city look at us as a liability issue. But it's going to happen. It's going to continue to happen in the future. But you guys being overhead, just telling us what's going on, where it really comes into play is you have a suspect that gets up and runs, and man, I don't know how you guys do it, but you're like, okay, he's running this way, he jumped this. And next thing you know, you're putting us in spots, and how you do it up there going in circles is beyond me, man. I mean, you guys, your training program, you bring in the cream of the crop because all of them do really well. So you definitely take pride in that because, I mean, there are some that are just so much better than others because you can tell, but it doesn't mean the others aren't worth their weight in gold.
Yep.
So a lot of it has with suspects moving. We've had suspects run, figure like, oh crap, my only way to do this is break into a house. Hey guys, you just went in that. Now, and I don't know how you guys do it, but you already know the address. But we don't. Even if we're on the ground, we don't know it. And you're like, it has a red truck and a white van out in front. So boom, we converge on it. And that's all because of you. I mean, if we see a broken window, of course, we're not going to ignore it. But a lot of times these guys got into houses where you guys saw it and we wouldn't have known because it was an open door.
Yeah.
And as you and I know, a dog's not always going to hit on a suspect inside a house.
That's right.
If he does, it's a good day. Usually it goes with witnesses, airship. Yeah, it's invaluable. Hillside searches up in the Hollywood Hills, you guys overhead. It's a godsend. I will say though, after 4 hours of searching and you're only halfway done, when you guys take off to a pursuit or something, it's such a beautiful silence. I literally will just sit there, take a deep breath and be like, God, this is peaceful.
It is.
Right? But yeah, it's like, man, it's a coughing. It's like, whew. But we love to have you guys come back too, because we know if this guy gets up and runs, you're a godsend to have overhead.
Yeah.
Your pilots are everything. I remember the older pilots though were a lot more gunfire because I think I came on when like the last of the Vietnam era pilots were probably on their way to retirement, but still working.
Yeah.
And they would do things like, geez, you're going to land on our head. Or, I mean, they would come down and I got the suspect at the garage. I'm like, yeah, you're on top of the garage. You guys did some wild stuff. And it was always like the older pilots that like had a little Vietnam experience, and they're awesome. And they just passed their trade on to you guys. And it gets passed on.
They were great, great pilots.
Yeah, so invaluable with you guys overhead. Absolutely 100%. Just top notch. It makes it so much easier.
What are some things that you, through experience, expected from a TFO? I mean, where you didn't even have to think about it, but you expected them to do certain things. Give us a couple that you expected to get out of that air crew.
The one thing I expected, and when it didn't happen, which was few and far between, I'd be like, come on, guys, is when we have all these canine teams searching, we like to be offset so we aren't back to back to avoid crossfire. Or we like to be not too far away from each other, but like you don't want to have one guy at this house and then one guy 5 houses down, because that gives the suspect too much area to work our search pattern.
Yep.
You want to keep kind of close and kind of just one, and until we're done. That's what I would expect, because we don't know where they're at. I would expect the observer to be like, hey, K9 4, you're about 3 houses in front of K9 6. Why don't you hold off out front, let him catch up to you? Stuff like that, because I'd be like, oh, I'd be like, come on, K9 6, what are you doing? That would be the one thing that I would want them to do, because a couple of times I finished and I'm like, where are they? And they're half a block back, and
yeah, that's a long way.
I'm like, okay, that's too much room to give the suspect a chance to work us.
Yeah.
But man, you guys, I can't think of a time when I walked away going, what the heck, airship? Come on, guys. I really can't. One time in the valley up on Vermont.
Let's not talk about that. That might have been me.
It might have been, but I don't think it was. And it was totally understandable after the fact. We had a guy running up at Vermont and Franklin, and he all of a sudden got him started running, and we're trying to converge on him. The airship's doing a great job, and whew, the airship flies off. Doesn't say a word. And I'm like, what the heck? Never done that before. I'm like, okay, that's weird. There has to be a reason. And with you guys, it's so much easier. But chasing a guy on foot, it gets a little hectic.
Yeah.
We ended up getting him into custody. So I call. I'm like, hey guys, thanks for calling us. I guess the ship had just got serviced, and I don't know if there was extra parts laying on the ground or they weren't checked off on a checklist. I'm sure you guys have all sorts of checks and balances, but it was cottering pins for the rotor blades that were either on the ground, not put in, or it wasn't checked off as that they were put in. Is there a safety cotter, some kind of cotter pin maybe in the tail rotor?
Yeah, it could have been either. So they found something on the deck probably back at Hooper, and then said, hey, Air 3, we just found this on your spot. You need to come back and land right now. That's probably, I'm imagining that's what happened.
And that could be, somebody dropping something, they replaced something, didn't pick it, whatever.
But you're not used to that. I mean, you're not used to them leaving.
You guys will tell us, hey, I got a pursuit, I got a help call. You guys are on your own. I don't think you'd leave from an actively running suspect. I've never seen that. But if you're just over a stagnant perimeter we're searching, you will go to something more, which is absolutely fine with us. We expect you to go to something more critical. But that was a weird one. And then when they told me that, I'm like, yeah, those sound important. They're like, yeah, that's kind of what holds the wing on if the bolts come off. I'm like, hey, man, I was just curious. We were all kind of at awe because it's never happened before. And they're like, no, we switched over, and they really wanted us to land immediately.
Yes.
Which you could have at like Kaiser Hospital or something. But they said, we're not having any vibration or anything. Let's just get back to the air support. Yeah. So that's one time we were a little like, what the heck? And then they told me, I'm like, well, I'm glad you made it.
Can you think of an example? I mean, I'll bet you have a whole bunch, but think of an example where having that air unit overhead made a huge difference in either the safety of the search or the success of the search.
thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, and save lives and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
And that's one thing I was thinking of. And I'm hard pressed to find one thing that stands out. But there's many things that stand out, like your FLIR fines,
Talk about that. Talk about FLIR fines and how that.
Well, in the beginning,
from your perspective.
In the beginning, when I started in 97, 98, it was just like, hey, we got a heat source. Okay. And now it's evolved. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they've evolved so much to where they can make things out. I mean, it's very clear. It's awesome. I've seen some, and I'm just like, wow. That's clear. I can't even run around the garage and go to the restroom. So like it would be easy. I mean, it would be like, hey, we have a hot trash can, and you guys would know, hey, it's a green trash can, so it could be leaf clippings. We'd run the dog by it, not getting anything. Yeah, it's leaf clippings. Or you'd get something like, hey, that trash can wasn't hot. 2 yards away, that trash can was not hot 5 minutes ago. It's giving off some heat. Okay, well, radar's going to go up. Okay, that's a good clue because we knew the guy was running that way. The FLIR fines are just they were awesome, and I know you guys liked them because that's your skill set, right? Yeah. That's you like it, and you guys knew if hey, we have your guy here. We knew at that point the dog's going to be out of play. We're going to move up as a team and order him out. Because our job was to locate the suspect. If you guys happen to locate him on the FLIR and say, hey, guys, your suspects are out here behind this garage, we'll take the dog still, but we won't utilize the dog to find him because technically he's already been found.
Right.
Us down there are like, oh, come on, guys. But there's a reason. There's a reason they do it. You guys know our policy, and there's a reason you do it. It could be for safety reasons. It could be for 100 different reasons. And I never had any. I thought you guys did a great job every time. I mean, if it was a heat source, you could make out, hey, I can't make this heat source out. A lot of times it was a suspect, and it just gives us that little extra caution we can move into. It's not like we're not careful and don't use proper tactics when we don't have a heat source, but when you're coming up behind a garage where there's a bunch of wood, you have
treat it differently.
You do. And you should treat everything like that, but I think mentally, you can't search like that for 4 hours.
No, because you'd never get anything done.
Yeah, and it would drain you. It would drain you because everything gets serious when you're going to the heat source or whatnot. So, a lot of smoking and joking and laughing. Well, before cameras, we'd laugh all the time, man. We had so much fun. That stopped with cameras because no one's going to get our sense of humor.
No.
So it turned very stiff. It turned very. I got left. I got right. You're like, this sucks. No one wants to laugh anymore, but I got it. So you guys did so much. It's really, and I'm sure there are instances if I talk to other canine guys, they're, oh my God, yeah, this. There's just so many, nothing stuck out, but absolute, just the best asset for canine.
Yeah. Wow.
Besides a good dog, the best asset for canine.
Yeah, that's what I want people to hear is that perspective because it's so important. John, in Ontario, did you have a good working relationship with Canine?
Yeah, absolutely. It was, we trained quite a bit together, and I think we're going to start talking about that. But a lot of our newer TFOs, if we found ourselves in a position where we wanted to get him some training with the infrared camera system, we would link up with our canine unit.
Yes.
And when they're doing their training, we would put our new TFO over that training and have work together, and that was a really effective way of getting training for both the canine unit and our new TFO and air support. So yeah, we found ourselves over the same incidents all the time. When you think of the two units in any city that have the most experience when it comes to tactics and finding, setting perimeters, finding bad guys, it's canine air support. Because you're over all the critical incidents citywide. It's not one beat or the other. But yeah, to short answer to your question is yes, we had a great relationship with them.
It's so important. I mean, to have that relationship because, like you said, John, if it's something big happens, these are the two units that are going to be there. SWAT would be another one that might come in, but for a search, you're going to be doing a FLIR search and a canine search. It's so important that both air support and canine know what to expect from each other. And that requires communication, training, debriefing, which I think overall we did pretty well on our department. You think so too, Hans? I mean, is that your impression?
We always, on bigger incidents, we always invited you guys, or you invited us. If there was even a sense of something could have been done better here, phone calls were made, or, hey, you want to meet for some coffee up at air support? Something would be done to either explain the situation, rectify it, or make it better.
Yes.
We always were. We did the same thing with new observers, or even just like if the new FLIRs came out and you guys wanted to play with them more and get used to them. We would say, we're training over here at whatever DWP yard, come on over and join us. And
yes.
You would. And we try to help each other out, even though we're in such different worlds. We do meet at some point a lot.
That's right. Yep. And years ago, I'm not sure that happened a whole lot. And I think it increased over the years to where it is now, where I think it's really good now. Part of that, I'm not trying to take credit, but part of it was a canine handler going to air support and telling people, hey, we got to meet these handlers. You talk to them every night. You don't even know who they are, face to face. Really important. It improves the relationship. You put a face with a name, with a voice rather, and it improves your efficiency, effectiveness, and the safety. So I thought the relationship was really good, and it continues to do that.
We would try to have our annual or biannual training together. We'd meet up at air support. I hated that. I hated that because I'm not the smallest guy in the world, and you have to get weighed, right? You put on your vest and your helmet, and they weigh your dog, and then they weigh you. And I'm like, oh, okay, here all the jokes come. They're never going to fly. They're never going to fly with you. They're never going to fly with you. They're going to run out of gas once they leave the deck. I'm like, I hate this shit, man.
What Hans is talking about is our next topic, which is transportation training. And what he's talking about is we kept a record of every canine handler with full gear and their dog for weight and balance purposes. Now,
right.
Could we accomplish that mission without that information? Sure, you could. You could just ballpark it. But we wanted to be as exact as possible for safety. And so one of the first things we did at transportation training was say, put your gear on, grab your dog, step on the scale. And then we say, Hans Almaraz, and put the weight there. Now we know when we get the call to go pick up Hans in Santa Clarita at the stair station.
Say denied.
Denied.
Denied,
we can look up Hans and go, wow, Hans put on a couple pounds.
Yeah.
No, we know the weight. We'd know the weight. And now you could look at it and go, well, I'm at 60% fuel. I mean, we actually had cards laminated in the ship that we could do a quick look at a weight and balance based on that information. And if you were, if you had 100% fuel, you might say, we can't do it. I can do it in about 30 minutes maybe, but right now I can't do it. And that's the reason for that. We took that seriously. But then the transportation training, first of all, did you ever do a real transport to a real search?
And I didn't, because I saw it was easy getting there, but your mission's first.
Yes.
So like Dave Stambaugh loved it. I don't know if he wanted to be a SEAL in his prior life, or he had some, apocalypse now. Dun, 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 here comes Dave Stambaugh. Great guy. I love Dave. But he did it a couple times, and I was like, it's great getting there, but you don't have all your stuff. You don't usually leave something behind, maybe.
That's right. And now you got to get home.
Yeah. And you guys will get us home if you can. But man, how often are you guys called away to something else?
That's
so
right.
Now you're stuck in the harbor. You live in Agua Dulce, and nobody from harbor wants to drive to Agua Dulce. That's 70 miles. So now are they just going to drive you to the end of the division? You hop in another car and you just hopscotch all the way up. I was like, yeah, I just want to get in my car, even if it's sitting in traffic. And a lot of times, I noticed by the time you make that phone call, meet at whatever helipad, you're either going to get there with us or right.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we'd get there first. Yeah, it sucks driving through traffic and your blood pressure goes up trying to get these people out of your way. But it seemed like it was a wash, unless it was a very long distance, like
Right.
wherever. Yeah. Well, actually, we did some stuff on top of a building once at Sunset in Alvarado, I think, or Glendale. There was a building a guy was in. It was a 20-story building, and you just real simple loaded up at air support, dropped a team off. I think it was D platoon with us.
Yes.
And then started at the bottom. Yeah, and then they pushed together in that building. That's one time I remember. Something like that would be awesome because you don't want to take a team all the way up the elevator, come down. So that worked out really nice there. No, I was saying as far as when we started, it was guessing. I mean, we still did the weight and stuff, but okay, dog's in, hold the leash. And we just continue to improve. Hey, let's get a harness with the dog that's actually tied to the floor, because dogs are dogs, right? They're like kids. They're going to do something stupid, and you don't want him doing something stupid on the pilot's lap, right?
That's right.
All of a sudden, and I remember there a couple of times when we didn't have those tethers, a dog didn't get all the way up, but got up enough to where, hey, this is not a game. This is scary. He doesn't know. He's just being a goofy bastard he is. He doesn't know gunting up there could end all of our time here.
That's right.
So we just improved. We got the nice leather or the nice web, whatever they were, tethers made that we could hook up to their leash or hook up to their harness. And it improved to the point where I think we're good. Now we just got to practice it. And it did. Doing it twice a year, that first time you're still like, okay, dog, you're wrestling a dog, you're trying to get the tether on. Yeah, headset, this, that. I mean, the only thing I ever did easy on that was don't approach from the rear. Okay, I got that. That's easy. But sometimes, depending on the dog, man, but a lot of times they just I don't even think they realize they're flying. They're just like, all right. They just look out and you can take a couple pictures of him over Dodger Stadium and stuff. So
what about, this is the one thing that comes up as I travel around and as I've talked about this topic over the years, there's people that either disagree with what we did in this area that I'm about to talk about, or they just said, it's unnecessary. And that is the muzzle. What are your thoughts about the muzzle being the boarding pass to get on that helicopter?
There's different kind of muzzles, a soft muzzle, a full leather muzzle. I don't disagree with it because, again, you're dealing with an animal. You can't sit there and explain, hey, so, buddy, we're going in a helicopter. These two guys up here in the big green suits.
That look like bite suits?
Yeah. You guys and firemen, they always take a second look at, right? Firemen especially.
That's right.
And they look at them, they're like, oh, there's 6 of them. Which one do I want? But, you show up like that, they're right away, So, absolutely. I even though I would trust my dog, I would at the very least put a soft muzzle on him to put some kind of control, because what do dogs do? Their number one thing, they bite. That's their bread and butter. They bite. And even if you trust your dog, you never know, man. I've had some great dogs, and 7 years into it, I'm like, what the hell was that?
Yeah, exactly.
They do something stupid, and it's like, I think it almost should be at least a soft muzzle, because the soft muzzle still keeps their mouth closed. Should be mandatory, because that dog getting up there and what do? They bite.
Yeah, that's right.
It
could be catastrophic.
It's a little fix. Yes, they could prevent a catastrophic accident. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, I've said it for years, and I'm telling you, there's people that say that canine handlers even they're offended by that. Oh, I have control of my dog. I'm like, hold on, you're getting into an environment that your dog's not used to. It's going to cause stress, and your dog could react. And I've actually heard air crews say, it's no big deal. And I'm like, you never worked around a dog then? Oh, well, no, I went on searches. No, do you ever handle a dog? And they go, no. I go, see, any handler will tell you that they get surprised. You just said it, 7 years, and all of a sudden they do something. You go, what the heck? That's common.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's no big deal till it's a big deal. Yes. When it is, it's a huge deal. Even if it doesn't cause a horrible catastrophic accident at airship, it's going to cause people from above, because people are going to find out. It's going to cause more critique of your unit. It's going to cause more oversight. It's going to cause probably somebody to get in trouble and be like, you have muzzles. Why didn't you're in a helicopter? It's smart.
And muzzles are part of canine training. I mean, it's just, that's why I never understood it when a canine handler was saying, I said, well, you've never used a muzzle in your training? And they go, a little. Well, it should be a
staple.
lot. I mean, it's fun. It's fun for the dog. The dogs love that stuff. And it's a really cool way to train. That's why I was stunned when people would resist it. And they go, well, my dog, he would never do that. You don't know that.
Thanks to our sponsor, Anodyne Electronics Manufacturing, a leading manufacturer of trusted special mission avionics for law enforcement, aerial firefighting, and utility operators. Visit www.aem-corp.com and learn how AEM's digital communication and loudspeaker systems, avionics consoles, radios, and specialty audio products can support your most demanding missions.
I'll have the story later if we can, exactly about that. He would never do that. So, but we'll get into that if we can later. But yeah, no, training, it's hard to do it all the time, but we tried to do it once or twice a year. And we loved it because you guys always threw out a nice spread for us afterwards. We always appreciated that. And we tried to return the favor. But we always would have to use your facilities, but that's okay.
That is okay.
Yeah, it was good. Definite must. Constant training.
Man, time is flying here.
I know.
I really want to talk about New Year's Day 2016.
Yeah.
We have to talk about this. And if it's all right, I'll start because it kind of started with air support.
Yeah, definitely.
And me. This is Hans and I have spent a lot of time together over the years. We're just 600 feet apart.
600 feet apart, yeah.
And on this day, it's New Year's Day 2016, my last New Year's Day. The funny thing is that my daughter usually would come with me on New Year's Day and she'd ride the back because it's a calm day. There's nothing happening. You got a lot of sightseeing in. Well, that day I was working with somebody that was in training. It's Johnny Dara, SWAT guy. And Johnny and I have known each other for years and we're getting to work together. And I said, Megan, you can't come to work with me tomorrow. I'm with a trainee. And I probably could have wiggled it into it, but she didn't go. She didn't get to go. And it ends up that I'm over one of the wildest, most incredible things I was over in my entire time at air support. It's in my top 3, probably number 1 in for a lot of reasons, which everybody's about to hear. So LoJack, it's a LoJack that we get notified of, and it's pinging in the south end. And we launch and we locate it. And when we find it, the car's been crashed and the CHP's there. And so we get a hold of them and say, hey, and this was taken in a carjacking, armed carjacking. And I believe the description fit a guy that we've been looking for, that everybody had been looking for. This guy's been, it's like a serial carjacking. I think there was even shots fired on one.
Yep.
Anyway,
homicide on one. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. So, and we pretty much know it's that guy. So we go there.
Yeah. I don't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Gasparian was the primary suspect. Just to lay a foundation. He was the one for 5 weeks, Burbank, the Valley, all over LA.
Oh yeah.
And he would just do street robberies and shoot people for no reason, and did during that time commit one homicide.
Yeah. This was LA's most wanted by far at the time. And we know that. We find the car, it's sitting there crashed, chippies are with it. So we get them on the air and say, hey, anybody run from that? And they said, hey, we had one wit that said a couple guys left this car and they got into another car, and they gave a basic description of it.
Yes.
We put that description out over the air. In 30 seconds, a Southeast unit says, I'm behind that car, southbound, Fig, whatever. And we respond to that. By the time we get there, this guy is taken off from the ground unit. And it is now me and Johnny over this car. There isn't a police car in sight. This guy is hauling ass. I mean, he is screaming on a major. And at one point, locks him up. Passenger gets out. Shots fired into a windshield of another car. Carjacks that car, and the car's split up now.
Yeah.
And so we're like, what are we going to do here? We got two guys now. We stay with the gun. We stay with the guy that we know just committed that.
Yep.
Is that the guy, the most wanted guy? I have no idea. We watch the other car go away. We describe where they're going. And we follow this car now. Still no police units behind. And eventually, this guy going 100 plus, he gets a curve and he spins out and crashes and bails out. He bails out, drops his gun, runs 10 yards, runs back, picks up his gun, and runs into a neighborhood in Long Beach. So now we're outside the city, we're in Long Beach. And we watch him, and we are losing sight of him maybe between these houses, but we see him go to a particular house, and he's at a porch, a back porch, and we are 99% sure he went in. We're not 100% sure, but we're 99% sure he went in a back door. And we start setting up a perimeter, and the perimeter is set. Meanwhile, Hans and others in K9 are getting done with a search that they've been doing, and they hear this, and you guys respond. Tell us what, from your perspective, what you thought you were getting into there, what your mindset was, and then we'll explain, how we approach this.
Right. So, like you said, this was New Year's morning. So it was 2015, 2016, January 1st. It was funny because we had a party earlier that night, and I was always very like, hey, if I'm on call, I'm not going to have cocktails. I've always been that way. Not even one. I mean, I may have a sip of a beer, but I've always been good about that. So we get called out to Newton Division for a 459 at a public storage. About 5 a.m, something like that. Go there, searching it, hear the pursuit, hear the following. We're listening to it. We're just finishing up. We find the guy in a storage locker, take him into custody. Now we're listening. And more information is coming out. And then after you guys hang out at that back door, at one point, the father of the family came out bleeding, running out bleeding.
Running out the front.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like a lightning bolt running out the front and bleeding. Yes.
Yeah. So, and then I think information after they briefed the father that his sons are in there and he believes they're shot. So we're listening to this, and we're coming from Newton Division to Long Beach with, what do you think, Jack? 15, 20 miles? And I'm thinking, okay, well, these guys are going to form up a team and they got to go in. This is one of those things the department doesn't train often on, but they do train you. I think they might have changed the acronym by now, but or not an acronym, but they used to call it Emergency Action Rapid Deployment, I believe.
Yeah.
It probably has a much cooler acronym by now because LAPD is all about the cool acronyms, except for Crash. They took that one away.
Yeah, exactly. The coolest one ever.
I'm like, these guys are going to form up and go in. They have no choice at this point. They have to. If there's victim shot inside, it's shitty. You don't get much training. We didn't get much training either because we went through SWAT's emergency action rapid deployment training like once, maybe twice. So we're at the level about patrol. Now we probably have different mindsets, like, F this guys, let's get down and do this. But we all have about the same amount of training. We do get better firearms training, but I'm thinking it's going to be over by the time we get there because they have to. They can't wait. We get there, containment. Long Beach units out front, LAPD, they have good containment on the location.
Yeah.
We get to the CP, get a real brief. I remember asking the father, do you think your sons are shot? Because if they didn't get shot and they're just being held, contained, it's a Div platoon thing. There's no
That's
rush.
Right.
Now we'll have a team ready to go in if we start hearing shots.
Sure.
We have no choice. We got to get in there to prevent, preserve life. This old man was certain. He's like, no, he shot my sons. I know he shot my sons. He was very specific that he heard shots. He heard his sons screaming in pain. Very, very specific. So we're like, okay, we like this. Let's go. We go down steep. We go 2 blocks over, park about 4 houses shy.
Yep.
All right, guys, this is what we're going to do. We looked at it. Looked like the east entrance at the driveway. It was an older house with like 4 stairs up to a single door that looked like into the kitchen. I'm like, we should be able to take that door off the hinges. It's an older house. So we move up as a team. As we're moving up, nobody grabs tools, right? They're laying there, but nobody wants to grab them. So I'm like, guys, we need tools, guys. And they're just ignoring me. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I got to go back. So I go back and get the tools, which we did need. But now I'm at the back of the stick. I'm like second or third back. I'm like, okay, but whatever. I mean, you know, the guys up there did an awesome job. Nobody could have probably done it better. First we give patrol, we get beanbag shotguns on all sides of the house, and we need to do some kind of distraction. And this is where our plan is canine officers always taking the lead on a search. We just start formulating stuff like, okay, hey, we don't have flashbangs. You know, SWAT would never give us flashbangs, so that's fine. We don't need them, but we need some kind of distraction. So we deployed beanbag shotguns around the house, and we told them, when we make our approach and we tell you go, you start blowing out the windows of the house just to get the guy's mind off of what we're doing. And we did. We initiated the beanbags. They start blowing out windows. We go up to the steps, and as we go up to the steps, it had to have been 6 or 7 rounds come out through the door. You can see them striking the eave of the house next door, which was like, I don't know, 20 feet away, maybe, pretty close together. And we're like, shit. So we backed off just to make, so many rounds came out of that door. We backed off just to make sure nobody was hit. And we back off, recovering. And I remember Carnivale, he's like, is anybody hit? Is everybody okay? And everyone's like, yeah, we're good. And the incident commander gets on the air, and we say, I think Carnivale broadcast, hey, there's shots fired in the location. And of course, the incident commander's like, well, get in there. What are you waiting for? And Carnivale, like, you know, he puts him in check, which as canine, you got to put superiors in check sometime, but respectfully. And he says, hey, Carnivale says, hey, CP, you need to calm down. He was shooting at us. He wasn't shooting at the suspects.
I remember that.
We aren't going to keep trying to get in to this door bullets are coming out of. We're going to regroup, but we are going to get into that door. I'll assure you one thing. We were going to get into that door. That door was like a vault door. It felt like it took forever to get into, man. This thing was a solid wood door. You think it's an old house, but old houses were built good back then. They had those solid wood doors, big solid frames, and we beat the shit out of that door. God, it felt like forever. I'm sure it wasn't, but so door flies open. Everybody's going in. As soon as the first 3 guys get in.
So I'm going to pause you.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to pause you because we're going back and forth here from perspective. So
yes.
You communicated to Johnny and I the plan. We knew what you were going to do. We know that there's shots being fired. We know that you're still going in. And I've told Hans this before, that John Darr and I, 2 very experienced people, we looked at each other and said, this is not going to be good. This is not going to end well. I'm concerned for these guys, really concerned. I had a feeling in my gut that I had never, ever had before in my entire time at Air Support. I had it at that moment. Johnny did too. We looked at each other and just shaking our heads. And to the point where we started moving ambulances. I mean, where we requested the ambulance to get closer to the scene, because we really thought that this was not going to end well. It's the worst feeling I've had in my entire career. But I had confidence. We both knew who was going in. We knew that you guys could do it, but we were not confident you could do it without at least one of you getting hit. Yeah, because of what we've seen up to this point. This guy is crazy.
He's committed. What do we call the guys who walk out of perimeters and just give up after doing some heinous crime? That guy was a quitter. This guy was not a quitter.
That's right. This guy's not quitting.
Till the end.
So back to you, Hans. You're going in the door now.
We get in the door, and as that's happening, I'm thinking, okay, I'm like 4, maybe 5 back, 4, and I'm thinking, okay, well, guys are, and I was thinking this too, and it's a horrible thing to think, but you got to look at reality the way it is, because once we get in that door, it's just a single doorway, and he already put rounds through it. He's going to hit the first couple guys coming through. Yeah. And I'm thinking, okay, my job is number 4. is when the first two guys go down or the first guy goes down, the next guy's going to have to step over and engage. If he goes down, I'm going to have to move up and engage. But at the very least, I'm going to be dragging my brothers out.
Yeah.
At the very least, I was thinking I'm going to be dragging one or two guys out because I'm in the position where the guy in front of me or the guy in front of him is going to step up and engage, and I'm going to drag him out, just like we're trained. But now you start thinking like this shit got real quick.
Yeah.
And so that's my mindset. I'm just going to start grabbing guys and pulling them off that little landing and throwing them out there and getting them whatever they need. We go in and you hear the dog goes in first. So we decided to enter a dog first because number one, a dog is a great distraction, right? The dog, there's this thing, and Doug Roller told me the theory. It had a name, and I'm never going to remember it. But he said, if you get a bad guy that's committed to engage another officer or a human, it could be a military, whatever, he's committed to engage, he knows human instinct. He knows if he engages you, he can back you down, or he knows you're going to be afraid like he is, or once you get shot, you're going to be. You enter a dog into that, he didn't plan for that. Yeah. And another OYS I was in, we entered a dog to a guy with a rifle, and it worked beautifully. So what happens, Doug Roller explained to me, is that when that dog gets on the guy, his plan goes to hell in the handbasket for the most part. I mean, we've all seen police dogs get shot. That plan goes to hell in the handbasket because now the guy's getting bit. He's going to grab the dog or try and get away, or his whole plan went out the window because he was expecting to engage a human with the same mindset as him. I don't know if mindset is the right word, but the same emotions as him.
Yeah.
So we decided, let's enter the dog in. Dog went in, we followed in right after. You hear one pop, and the dog goes across the room, and I thought we were going to be pulling out like my sons, like kids, maybe teens. These guys are the biggest Samoan guys you ever saw. Yeah. And they were huddled, they were scared, and God bless them, I get it. They were scared. They were huddled in the corner. They were shot in the stomach and the legs. He did shoot them. The dog goes up to them, flips around, and the guy was sitting behind a wall that was about 5 feet from the door, kind of in a seated position, but he had put a gun under his chin.
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned air medical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completions Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs, including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
The dog went up, took a bite hold of his leg. The gun flopped down. Everyone else is clearing the house. I'm covering the suspect. We get those guys out of there, giant men. We get them out of there. I'm like, you guys, you're some big ass sons. We get them out of there, and that's it. I mean, it was code 4. Yeah. What was interesting is we didn't talk to him, but detectives talked to him. And they said, as we came up and started breaching door the initial time, he came around the corner where he was sitting from a seated position and fired through the door. They said he was reloading his gun, he must have been reloading a magazine from loose rounds in his pockets. Back up, before that, he's on the phone with his mom, the bad guy. And he tells his mom the situation. They said he told her everything. He's like, I'm going to kill these 2 guys I have, and I'm going to kill myself. He knew the jig was up. He was going to do it. As we make the second, after he goes empty, that was after the phone call. After he goes empty shooting at us, they say he's loading loose rounds. And he said, we must have got in there quicker than I thought. It felt like forever. But he said the door comes flying open. Whatever rounds he has in the gun, he just loads it and shoots himself. So he knew what was going to come, and it was going to come. We were not. There was going to be a gunfight or that way.
Yeah.
That's the only way this was going to end, and he already showed his intentions. And it was to hear everything that was going on in there. It was nice for us because it brings you back to reality. Like, there are some bad people out here that have bad intentions, and there's not many of them. You guys know, most of these guys, they quit, right? But there's those small percentage out there that will go down in hell of bullets, whether it's drug related, whatever is going on in their mind. Like, that's just their lifestyle. And that was, I think I could call that a 100% full success.
Yeah.
Even though, he missed us, we got the hostages out. He took care of what essentially, not because we were planned on going in there and doing it, but essentially what was going to happen anyways. It was going to be a gunfight.
Yeah.
But it ended up not being, which is fine with us. I mean, our objective was sealed. We got the hostages out. This guy's whatever incapacity, he ended up dying. Incapacitated one way or the other. I don't care if we did or he did it. We got the hostages out, and that was a big deal.
Had you not got those hostages out, it's likely at least one of them probably wouldn't have survived. Is that accurate?
Maybe the guy with the belly shots, because none of them were in the chest. It was all leg and belly shots. They were big, though. I don't even know if those bullets penetrate.
Yeah, that's right.
Huge men.
And it may have been, for SWAT, it may have been hours, till, or at least an hour till they even arrive at scene to handle that. That's my point, that it could have, it was necessary to go in and do that, as dangerous as it was. But
and it's funny that years earlier the department felt that it was, and I think it derived from school shootings.
Sure.
That they started training us on this, and you do that training, you think, man, this is going to be a SWAT thing. We're never going to do this. Next thing you know, you're out already, and SWAT's in bed, and they should be rolling. They did roll. They rolled up shortly after.
They did,
and it was one of those things where, if I was them, I'd be thinking like, damn it.
I know,
right? Because that's their bread and butter. That's what hostage rescues, man, and they're good at it.
Who handled this? K-9 took care of this.
Yeah, SWAT guys, they're the best at it.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if I would want anybody else there, it would have been SWAT.
Sure,
they are good, and they can blow doors off of hinges with explosives, and we're sitting there hammers and Holligans and shit that no flashbangs. Just, hey, the patrol officer's like, yeah, cool, I'll shoot windows, and they're having a good time, and it worked out well for everybody. It was a pleasure for me to be part of that, because it was K-9.
Yeah.
And to see everybody work so well together in something probably never any of us expected to go down. Yeah. It was nice to see. It's one of those things, like, you always practice. You never know when it's going to happen, but when it does and it goes good, you're like, okay, cool. Yeah.
I will tell you that one of the best broadcasts I've heard in my entire career was you guys saying, Code 4, all officers okay. I don't know who said it, but somebody said all officers okay. And Dara and I looked at each other and went, oh, I mean, we can breathe again. I'm not exaggerating at all. That was
tense.
It was really tense. It was the whole overall situation just said, this is not going to be good. And as an aircrew member, the lesson is that, you never know when the big one's going to hit, where you're going to be in the middle of something big. And same thing for you. Same thing for you. You just said it. You had this training. Oh, we're never going to use this. This is SWAT stuff. And there you are, going in the door for a guy that's wild. I mean, it was an incredible thing to watch. And I will say it. I've said it to you before, Hans. I wrote to each of you after that happened.
I still have that letter.
Well, it was the most courageous thing I saw in my whole career, because I just knew. I mean, I had watched this guy. I watched the violence in him. I knew what he was going to do.
Yeah.
When you guys entered, and it was not going to be, I give up. It was not going to be that. I was 100% sure of it. So was Johnny Dara, and that's why it was like it was. But it was courageous beyond belief, and I'm so proud of you guys.
To piggyback on that, to give credit where credit's due. The guy who got away in the initial car, they carjacked.
Yes.
His MO was to go the wrong way on the freeway because they chased him a couple times, and he'd always go opposite direction on the freeway, knowing we can't chase him. It's almost like a absolute. You can't chase him. You can parallel him. You will not go opposite direction on a freeway, and that's how he would get away. A week later, SIS, Special Investigation Section, they end up tracking him through the assistance of another unit, another undercover unit, because it was a 24-hour hunt. And they passed it off to SIS, and they had him in Sunland. And same thing, wrong way on the freeway, crashed this time, got out, and SIS I remember that I seen that shooting. It was, he's walking and he's shooting, and they're just like, I'm like, wow, what a great background. He had that 30-foot high sound wall.
The huge wall.
And a bunch of guys who this isn't their first rodeo, being SIS, and just took care of business the way they had to. I mean, the guy went down, he was shooting too. So, they did 100% professional job. And as far as Long Beach, man, just being with those guys, being in a unit like K9, you may not be the badass, but working with guys like that really makes you want to perform to their level.
Yes.
And not to say like they were all up here and I was down here. I think it's hand in hand with everybody there. You want to all perform to a certain level, and you don't want to be the one guy like, I ain't going in there. You knew what had to be done.
We're all going in.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah, a lot of good action that day.
Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah.
I remember calling home to Megan, and she answers the phone. I go, hey, turn on the news. And she goes, no. She knew right away. Why is Dad telling me to turn on the news? She hasn't forgiven me yet, because once she saw it, she was like, I could have been over that. I'm like, I'm kind of glad. In some ways, I'm kind of glad she wasn't over it. But in other ways, I understand why she's still mad at me to this day.
Yeah.
Well, the time has flown by, and there's some other things we wanted to get to, but we covered a lot, and this has been wonderful. And I'd just like to give you the opportunity, Hans, kind of wrap up your personal thoughts about air support supporting you as a customer, as a K9 handler, just kind of an overview or wrap up of that relationship and how you feel about it personally.
Yeah, over the years, it's I could honestly say a lot of guys would have gotten away if it wasn't for you guys. Whether it's you bedding them down before we're even there, or a suspect running and knows he has to break the perimeter, and how easy it is to run by a patrol car. Sometimes the guys are sitting in and shouldn't be, but it's, you have a guy on the move, it turns things very quick. And you guys overhead have always just been a complete asset to us, just keeping them bedded down, or when they do get up and run, coordinating units to get on top of them to narrow it down. And maybe he does go to ground again, then we just go back into canine search mode and we'll find them. But now he's narrowed down because of you guys, because of air support, he's narrowed down to like 2 or 3 houses, instead of a 4-block perimeter. Now we got him in this little area, and we're going to find him, one way or the other, we will find him. Just our working relationship. And it should be that way with police departments across the nation. And I'm sure it is. I can only speak with our department. The working relationship is perfect. There's no thin skin. Somebody screws up or could have done something better. Nothing. We're all learning, right? A phone call. Hey, so what happened here? Okay, this is what I didn't like. Okay, hey, we can work on that. It's just a good working relationship with the air crews and K9, and that goes across the board, not just the K9 patrol, SWAT detectives. It makes things so much safer. I mean, when you hear these politicians talking about, air support isn't necessary, you know what? Come work in my boots for a week, and you will see how important and how necessary it is. You guys are saving lives out there. I mean, we haven't even touched on pursuits, right? One of the most dangerous things in the world. You guys are clearing intersections. Hey, stop. Bad guy got through, but you guys need to stop. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it could have been, because if they went through that intersection, they would have been plowed into,
Yep.
and injuries would occur to civilians and to us. You guys up there make it so much safer for ground units across the board. And always have. That's one job I always thought would be fun, but God, to learn that job, you have to be a special person to learn that job. You really do. And I don't know, I would never know, but I don't know if I would have had it, because you guys are good up there. And sometimes I'm mesmerized by, damn, they're really good. Deb Kickbush, fantastic. Manny,
Deb.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Just, and it goes across the board. I mean, you guys are very particular in who you take. You put them through a rigorous training program. And at the end of the day, if you don't cut it, you don't cut it. But it doesn't mean you can't come back and try. You guys have always been good about that.
Yep.
You don't demean anybody. You don't make anybody. And I think it's understood that it's not, you didn't fail. It's just a very hard job, and you might need more time to fine tune some whatever of your groundwork that'll help you up there. And you guys have always been, man, you guys top notch. And I'm sure it's that way. You guys do that across the board, wherever you go. There's good guys up there, and it's a hell of a job, man. I don't know how you guys do it sometimes.
Well, thank you, Hans. Coming from you, that means a lot for all air crews that are out there supporting the canine operation.
Yeah.
John, some closing thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this was awesome. Yeah, we talk about how in law enforcement, canine and aviation are the two programs, one that are draw the most interest from the citizens, but two, that those are the two details that make the field work safer for the folks on the ground.
100%.
It makes those searches more efficient. The time that's saved when you employ canine operations with air support in terms of time spent searching for suspects goes down dramatically. So yeah. I'm really thankful that you spent the time to sit down and talk with us. And the incident you brought up in Long Beach, man, that really highlights the teamwork that goes into play. That, for the outcome of the positive outcome of that incident, the patrol had to be there and they had to do their job. You had to do your job, make an entry and engaging the suspect. And then air support was there as well, doing their thing. So each part of that puzzle is there in place and doing their thing. And, highlights the importance of training, and for the aviation programs out there that don't have the training program that stresses spending time with their canine units, I highly recommend you do that. Get with them, train with them, so you guys understand each other's tactics well enough to where when something's off. You can hear the voice inflection, your canine alert to say that something's not right. So Hans, thank you for everything you've done over the course of your career, and I hope you get to enjoy some well-earned time off at this point.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's been nice, and my body was breaking down anyways. I was like, I can't walk anymore.
It's hard.
So it was a good time to wrap it up.
Well, thank you again, and I just want to say a couple more things. I know I forgot to mention this. I mentioned the 2 medals of valor, both in canine. The other one's incredible too, where Hans is getting shot at by a guy with a rifle. His car gets hit 6 or 7 times. I mean, just amazing. But one thing I didn't mention was that Hans is also the recipient of a Top Cop Award in the nation, including just recently, just in May, for Police Week. Twice he's gone to DC for Top Cop. So for our listeners, and this is a special guy. He's humble about it, but I'm telling you, this is a special man. He was an incredible officer, incredible canine handler, lots of experience, and he was the person I wanted on here for, and you now know why, because he's got a great experience and perspective to share with our listeners to the importance of the relationship between canine and air support, the importance of understanding each other, debriefing, communicating, and working together to get the job done. Hans is somebody I hold in very, very high regard, and I was honored to be over you so many times over the years.
It was good to have you over us,
especially on New Year's Day. That was wild. But
I will say one thing. The award. It's nice to be recognized.
Yeah.
But let's face it, officers are doing stuff out there every day that is not. It can be compared to anything I've done, just maybe we got recognized. They did, because I heard stories this time in Washington, D.C. that I'm like, why are we here? These
There's some amazing stuff that goes
honorable
on.
mentions. I'm like, Jesus Christ, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, you should take our spot. I mean, not to minimize what all the K9 guys did that day in Hollenbeck, because they acted just to leave on that note. K9 retire. To see how all those young guys, and I just say young because they're younger than me, not because I'm any better, because I'm not. I've learned stuff from all of them. To see how they all reacted that day, Steve Wills after getting shot,
Steve's great.
Still staying in the gunfight, saying, I think I was hit. Well, you were hit, but he stayed in the gunfight. Adrian, first month in K9, and doesn't even have a dog assigned to him yet, and he takes probably the worst hit in his arm that he's still recovering from. They all reacted just so well, and I was so proud of them. Not like I'm proud of them because I'm overlooking them and saying, oh, now I can leave. No, I was just proud of them for the way they handled everything. It was just, for something to go sideways so quick, it was so nice to see how they reacted, knowing you guys just earned your stamp here. I mean, they earned it before that, but damn, to see it happen and be able to retire knowing these guys are just hunters out there and they will stay in the hunt till the end. It was just a beautiful thing to see. Tragic, but beautiful.
You left that unit in good hands and you left a mark there, Hans. And
thank you.
So thank you for taking the time away from your busy retirement schedule to hang out with John and I, because we're very thankful for it. We like I said, we've been talking about this episode for a while. So thanks for making it happen. And with that,
thank you.
We'll talk to everybody soon, and hope everybody enjoyed this episode as much as we did.
Yeah. All right.
Take care, everybody.
You guys. Thank
bet.
you. You too.
Catch you later.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors.
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned air medical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completions Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs, including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors. Thanks to our sponsor, Anodyne Electronics Manufacturing, a leading manufacturer of trusted special mission avionics for law enforcement, aerial firefighting, and utility operators. Visit www.aem-corp.com and learn how AEM's digital communication and loudspeaker systems, avionics consoles, radios, and specialty audio products can support your most demanding missions. Thanks to our sponsor, Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, and save lives and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hangar Z podcast. Our conversation with Hans Almaraz has highlighted the extraordinary contributions of law enforcement officers and their canine partners. Police canines play a crucial role in ensuring public safety, from locating suspects to finding evidence of a crime, and even tracking down at-risk members of the population who've gone missing, such as small children or the elderly. Their skills and dedication make them invaluable members of law enforcement. It's also important to recognize the teamwork and partnership that exists between air crews and canine teams. The synergy between these units significantly enhances operational effectiveness, allowing for coordinated efforts in searches, suspect apprehensions, and other critical incidents. Lastly, we want to take a moment to recognize Jimmy Hatch's Spikes Canine Fund. It's a remarkable organization dedicated to protecting and supporting these brave dogs. Spikes Canine Fund provides essential equipment, medical care, and training to canine units across the country, ensuring that these incredible animals have everything they need to perform their duties safely and effectively. To find out more and to support Spikes Canine Fund, go to spikescaninefund.org. Remember that the bond between an officer and their canine is more than just a partnership. It's a testament to the dedication and courage that defines our law enforcement community. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.
Time to close up the hangar. Thanks for joining us on the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts.